Welcome to Parent Conversations. Today is January 10th, and we have a very special guest with us today. We have Representative Dan Johnson from the Utah Legislature here. He's going to give us some information and answer some questions. As always, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Megan, will be moderating this meeting. You can also raise your hand or just unmute yourselves and insert your questions at the appropriate breaks in the conversation. We want to give a quick thank you to the Bear River Health Department, the Central Utah Public Health Department, and the Davis County Health Department. Without their grants, this would not be possible. Dan, thank you for joining us today, and I'm going to turn the time over to you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Megan. And it's really good to be with parents. I just tell everybody that's on the recording and seeing this live today that I spent 50 years in public and higher ed, serving as a teacher, administrator, associate superintendent, director, and then I worked with student teachers at Utah State University and taught administrators there who were working on their master's degrees. So I have quite a background in education, and then working with kids and families, across all the places that I've been in my life. And it's just been a great experience. So I'm really thankful. I got to tell you, each one of you, how important it is that you do things like this, because people make better decisions when they're well informed about what's going on. And I think that your engagement with the legislative process is really important. And I've often told people, if you don't think education is political, I think that you have not been watching what's going on, because all the laws and different things, policy and different things, programming and so on that goes on across our state is pretty dynamic. This year, we'll spend in the neighborhood of $7 billion, that's with a B, $1 billion on public and higher ed. And the total budget in the state is about $23 billion. So that's just a huge portion of it. The other part is health and human services. A lot of that money is really going to go towards this year, towards mental health. We're finding many problems with kids and with families suffering from mental health issues, and then also just the fact that we have really rapid increases in suicide, things like that. So anything that your organization can do to stay connected, to let people know what's going on, to give them access to resources, to influence policy that makes a difference for education and families in general, I think that's a good thing. So I want to thank you for that. So I'm just going to tell you right up front, I'm running legislation, and some of you may be aware of the Family Place and the work that they do for trauma-informed care for children, some that come because of domestic violence, and some that come to them because of homelessness, other sorts of issues, and it's all across the state. So you may not be aware of this, so I'll just teach you a little about that first. And that is that there are 11 family centers across the state of Utah that are like the Family Place in Logan. And so I'm working on legislation to help fund those nonprofits. The second thing I want to tell you about is how much domestic violence that occurs across our state. You may not know that there are 14 domestic violence centers across the state, just like CAPSA here in Logan. And so we're running legislation to try to get help to these nonprofits so they can deliver services to kids and families that are suffering trauma and need time to get themselves back together. Sometimes it's a need for learning how to do a new job, get education, that kind of thing. So those organizations locally here in Logan do a great job, but also way across the rest of our state, it's a big deal. So I wanted to let you know that I'm working on legislation around those areas in addition to the ones for education. So I think, Megan, let's go ahead and share the screen, because I think the thing that we want to make sure that everybody on the call today knows how to get on to the state legislative website and access the things that they need to access. So can we bring that up and get it? We'll see if we can get it to a good size. Now that's the one that steps for public comment. So you can see that. I think, I don't think that's the one I want yet, Megan. Can you scroll down that maybe?
Megan, I think he wants the first one
Yeah.
that we looked at. So while you find this, Dan, this is the one we have a surprise for you and for everyone. We have taken this information. This is so important that we took this information and put it into a little video.
Oh,
So
very
we will post that in our communities after parent conversations, and you guys will have just a little video that you can share that gives all of this information on how to connect.
That's very cool, because I think the one thing, I'll just say it out loud, is if you go to LE, the letters LE .Utah, Utah spelled out UTAH .gov, you can get on the website. And so that's the first thing. And then the really other important thing that you need to know is just click on the lower, there are 3 different columns. The one on the left that says resources, that's the one you click on. Then that resources opens up a whole series of different things that you can access. You know, I wonder if, Megan, are you able to bring that other one up? I don't see it on my screen. Shirley, what do you think?
Hey, I think it's awesome. I'm sorry, I was trying to walk Megan through trying to get the right document for you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but maybe I can just talk about that. There's nothing about this that's difficult at all, but for you and your team, you've already taken the information and are putting it in a way that you right now and others will be able to access any of the things that they want. So it really is a really simple process of being able to listen to a committee meeting, to watch a recording after the fact, if that's what you want to do, to hear those meetings live. You also can tune right in on the floor and watch the daily action that goes on as bills are passed. Another thing that you can do is click on bills. Then you can follow the ones that you want, that are important to you. And you can follow that all the way through the legislative process. So, you know, whether it's in committee meeting, it's being heard on the floor of the House. There we go. That might be it. All right. Oh, is that your video?
Sorry, now I'm muted. So yes, I was just going to share the video since Megan doesn't seem to be showing. So this is the video, and
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what was going on my end. I had screen sharing going and not sure why it wasn't showing up.
okay, can you make sure that his PowerPoint, that you can show the PowerPoint, but okay, and this one, yeah, this should be working. I don't know why it's great. Anyway, this shows, yeah, it's not doing it. Oh, but I know why, because I'm in the wrong. Let's try it from here. There we go. Anyway, Dan, we have taken all of those parts and put it together. And I'm not sure why. Megan said she had the Word document pulled up, but we weren't seeing it. So
yeah, I know you're trying.
Apologies on that, but you guys will have, we will post this in the communities, and this has every piece of what Representative Johnson is talking about. This is amazing information to help you connect. We can just all be a part of it. And that's why we called it Let Your Voice Be Heard. And we also released a mission for those of you may have noticed in the adventures. We've already released a mission with this information as well. So
I can't wait to see that video. I think the video is a wonderful, awesome idea. But honestly, it's if you go to le.utah.gov, you can get on the legislative website, click on resources, and then it just unfolds everything that you might want. So get on there and play around a little bit, and you can have all kinds of information there. So, and with this video walking you through it, that's going to be a really great tool. So thank you so much for doing that.
I can try and share my screen one more time if you want.
Let's do it. Let's just let everybody see what I'm talking about. And if that doesn't work, we'll go to the PowerPoint.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can see just what I was talking about down in the lower left-hand corner. When you get on the website at le.utah.gov, I have circled in the lower left-hand corner resources. So when you do that, then right below that, it opens up those three columns, and you can see the resources that are there. So there's all the stuff for the sessions. And now, by knowing this, you could have access to past sessions. If you wanted to look up a bill in the 2020 session or in the 2021 session. But you can also then begin to see the things that are proposed and have been released for the 2022 session. So that's pretty exciting. And you can walk down through that. There's some quick links for you. And you'll notice right at the bottom, if you say, well, I don't know the Capitol grounds very well, where do I go for a meeting that's in Senate 210? Well, you can click on the map and find out exactly where those locations are. So I think that will be really cool. So then the next thing is, if let's say you wanted to track a bill, you get online, you go to le.utah.gov, you click on resources, and let's go up one more click. Then you see where that's highlighted in yellow. That's where you're going to be able to find information about the bills that you want to follow, and that is for this upcoming session 2022. So
we have everybody mute except for Dan. I think we're getting some feedback from somewhere.
Yeah, that helps to have everyone on mute. Thanks for recognizing that. And so anyway, it's a real simple, straightforward process, but I think you're going to really enjoy being able to navigate all this login system and get tuned in, find out what's going on. Some of the most exciting and the most interesting parts really are the committee hearings on some of the more controversial issues. And you'll find out and know what those are. I'm sure Shirley and your team will be well aware of those, and we'll probably invite you to get online and possibly even if you want, you can share a comment there in the committee hearings if you feel like that's something that you would like to do. So that's that. I think we'll stop with that particular document, and if you don't mind bringing up that next one, we'll walk through it, Megan.
So while Megan brings that up, if I could just add that we have for years, I have talked about the importance of being involved in the legislative process, and what happens on Capitol Hill impacts our families. You guys, it has never been easier than now. I mean, these are exciting updates that to be able to literally watch what's going on online and to be able to, email everything you need is in this information that Representative Johnson has prepared for us and is sharing with us. It has never been easier to weigh in and let our legislators know what's important to us. So please do so. Okay,
Please
there
tell me you can see what I see and that it's a PowerPoint presentation.
we
It
can.
is. Yep, perfect. Well, I thought, I thought for everyone that maybe I'd give you a little bit of an idea of what the budget looks like going into the session, and just talk about some of the educational issues that are related with that, if that's okay. So our general session is coming up. It starts on January 18th. And I thought that I would just explain to you that my assignments are, I'm chair of the third house, which gives legislators and their spouses opportunities off the hill to learn about things that are going on, whether it's attending an arts sort of related thing, or maybe it's a science related thing, up at the University of Utah, or something that's put on by Utah State. So that's really important, and I'm glad that I get to do that. My wife, Carol, helps somewhat with that on those evening and afternoon events. I'm on the Education Standing Committee. That means that I am hearing every bill that has to deal with education. 50% of all the legislation that will happen this year will affect education. When it affects education, guess what? It affects families. And that's why I'm so happy that you're on this call today. So I'm also on the Education Appropriations Committee. So I'll get to weigh in on each of the education related appropriation requests before they go to the Executive Appropriations Committee. So once we get done with our work, we prioritize those things, and then it goes forward. Those would be committee hearings that would be really important for you to weigh in on right at the beginning of the session, because the first 2 to 3 weeks of the session, we don't vote on much because we're in committee meetings. Those committee meetings are all appropriation meetings. Once those are done, the prioritization process begins. Then, after a couple of weeks of doing that, then we're on the floor each day where we will be hearing the bills. Some of those bills have funding requests attached to them. So that's real important for you to watch in committee, also to be able to watch on the House. I'm also on the Transportation Committee, and that one also spends in the billions of dollars. So those two committees that I'm on spend nearly half of all the state's budget. We will have a balanced budget, by the way, at the end of the year. And that's the one thing that's kept us great. We try really, really hard to have low taxation and broad base. And then I'm hoping this year that for our families that there might be a tax rebate. Keep your fingers crossed on that. So I hope that we're going to be able to fund education as I'm describing to you, as well as provide a tax cut. So let's go ahead, and I'd just like you to take a look at that. Education modernization. I'm wondering if I can't quite see all the words of that because the view of the, maybe that's online, the view of the members that are on the call today. I'm going to minimize this. There I go. Now I can see all the words. So one of the things that we wanted to do, now you guys will remember that last year we passed Amendment G. That made a change that money could be spent from the education fund differently. And the money that is collected then from the income tax, that is constitutionally guaranteed. And we changed that a bit with the passage that all of our patrons across the state approved Amendment G. Really what it's going to do is foster innovation. It's going to align education pathways with career opportunities. We want to expand the critical workforce pipeline. So that affects all of our kids that are going through school, what's happening with them, what sort of jobs are they looking for, and then what is the educational opportunities that are available to these kids and families that will help with the workforce pipeline. And we want to create educational opportunity for all of Utah's children. That's really important. I got to tell you, this isn't about political views, so I'm not going to get into that. But you know what? Our kids need to be in school. Our moms and dads, they try their best. But you know what? If you're a single mom or a single dad that's trying to raise a bunch of kids, and then the kids are home and you can't get to work, and I mean, it's really creating a lot of issues. I know you all know that. So I know that childcare, so modernization of even that is going to be a real big deal, and you might want to watch that in your efforts, how that impacts children. So education modernization is preparing our kids for a prosperous future. That's what we want. Okay, we can go ahead to the next slide. So you know that it's, I'm just going to quickly just let you know that the legislature establishes and maintains the public education system, including the funding of the state portion of that cost. That's a huge cost. And the State Board of Education has general control and supervision over public education. You also know that you elect a local school board. That's where the work really gets done, because that's where local policy is made, and they set the curriculum, they adopt the LE budget, and they operate publicly funded enrollment for schools. So that's a big deal. I think a lot of people think, well, the governor has a lot of control over that. And the fact is that the governor really doesn't create the budget. He creates one that sort of gives a framework that he would like, but it's actually the legislature that takes all of this and puts the official budget together. So that's why your engagement with this process, but he does not control this budget. The way the governor controls it is that if things are passed that he doesn't like, he has veto power. All right, so we'll go to the next slide. Hey, Carol, would you want to get that other set of glasses? These are not the ones I was talking about. Hang on a minute, I'm going to get a different pair of glasses. Right. Okay, thanks for doing that. Appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. So
I'm just going to pipe in, Dan. I'm just going to pipe in and say how valuable Carol is as well. Everything that Dan does, Carol is right there supporting him. And Carol, we love you if you can hear us.
And she did. And she just smiled. She knows how it goes. That bless your heart. Thank you for saying that. Man, I tell you, there's so much to this that you just can't do it by yourself. That's why I love people like you guys, because you help so much. Well, I'd like to walk through this and just give you an overview of the revenue. The funding comes is through individual and corporate income tax. That's what you pay in personally each year. Right now, that rate is at 4.95. And I'm hoping that in this legislative session that we'll be able to decrease that, but not hurt the funding that we have in place. So I have some really cool things to share with you that I want you to watch, that I hope happens as we move forward. We amended the constitutional restriction on income tax revenue, and now it includes programs to support children and individuals with disabilities, as well as preschool, K-12, and higher education. I want you to know also that now the technical schools and higher education have all come under one board. And that is magnificent, because now as our kids and families move through high school and say they take something out at Bridgerland or one of the other applied technical colleges, they get some credentials. Well, they can transfer that to the University of Utah, SUU, Utah State University. So there's really dynamic changes happening. And now that it's all under one board, we're not having the technical colleges kind of being against higher education and trying to fight for money. So now that problem is really getting solved, and I voted in favor of that change, and I think it's going to be very, very valuable moving forward. And the other thing that we did was that we set in place a framework for the stabilization of education. In the past, there was what was called a rainy day fund. That's still in effect. But now we've created a rainy day fund just for education. And there will be, I'll bet you, over $100 million placed in that by the end of this session. So watch it. And so now we have 2 rainy day funds. That's going to be great, because if we have a downturn in the economy, we don't have to try to be fighting with that other rainy day fund, because now in education, there's one of its own. That happened as a result of you guys passing Amendment G. Also, as a part of that is enrollment growth. So now in the budget for education, it is in law that the budget has to include enrollment growth in the base budget. So then also is inflation. The amount of inflation that we've had, and it's getting higher, that has to be in the base budget, guaranteed. And so that's going to be, those things are amazing, because now we know that we have several percentages of increase in the base budget before we even start talking about our requests. That money's already guaranteed. That's really great. So that, in addition to the rainy day fund, is really amazing. Well, in addition to what I just talked to you about, we have federal flow through funds. That would be like Perkins money that comes through, and that's funding for technical education, or the money that comes through for special education. There's in the millions and millions of dollars, and that comes into our State Department of Education. And then a formula is used to distribute that money out across all the LEAs. LEAs are the local education agency. I hope that phone doesn't bother you, because I'm going to keep on going. And then there's some restricted accounts that happen. And I'll give it like, did you guys know that in the liquor tax and all the alcohol, 10% of that liquor tax, that money is in a law that amount of money that's gotten from that goes to offset the cost for the hot lunch program. Isn't that cool? And then there's all kinds of things like that. And then you know that local school districts can have a local property tax levy. So there are many different sources that affect education. There's a lot for me to keep my mind wrapped around, my eyes on it, and for you to ask questions about. Talk to your legislators, talk to your school board members, talk to your friends and family about education and how it's impacting you. All right, next one. All right, so most K-12 funding is distributed through what's called a formula program, and that's the weighted pupil unit. So the WPU, you probably all have heard about that. It's a really cool, fair system, because every student in the state of Utah has a unique student identifier. So let's say that a student moved from the Cache County School District down to St. George. That number is automatically transferred. It's all electronically done, so the money follows where the student is in the next school year. So that way, we don't have students moving all over the place. You have growth going on in a school district, but without tracking it, you wouldn't know how much of the weighted pupil unit money went to the individual school districts. So it's a really cool way that every kid doesn't get lost for a variety of different reasons, but money being one. And then we have a full-time equivalent accounts for where funding is largely unrestricted. And then we have special add-ons. So like special education, those classes are smaller, and it requires sometimes to have aides in there. So the cost of delivery of service to those children is higher. So you have that federal flow through money that helps fund special education. But what we do at the state is that we know that that child, he has a student identifier number. So we have a percentage, instead of it being 1%, for example, or 1 WPU, it might be 1.75 WPU, because so that money would follow that identified child, and that money goes to the local school district. So that helps with offset the cost of special education. We have an at-risk add-on. So in addition to kids that are special ed, we've identified special or add-on or at-risk kids, and that extra money for those children, because we also know they need special attention. And then we have a career and technical education. You know that buying computers and setting up shops and setting up all kinds of things like that for kids, K-12 is expensive. So there is an add-on for that. So that's kind of how it's funded. And it's a really cool system, and it's fair and equitable, and all the money gets distributed then out across the state to the local school boards, who then take that money. They get to make decisions about how it gets spent. Next slide. So here are some things that happened in the past session. So you can take this and put it in your mind and go, man, that's a lot. How do we keep it going, right? That's the big deal. So here they are, our budget actions in the last session. We spent $6.8 billion on education, and 4.2 of that was state funds. The rest of it came through other sorts of federal funds. There was an increase of 7.7% overall from the original appropriation that we were asking for. In other words, we were able to do more last year for education than what we originally thought we were able to. Some of the highlights is that there were 200 million ongoing with a 6% WPU. So each of those weighted pupil units got increased by 6%. And by the way, each time we increase one WPU, that equates to about 35 million in dollars. So if you wanted to know how, okay, it's 6% or on the WPU, that's 6 more. What does that mean? You can just multiply 6 times 35 million, and you would know how much new money came into education. There was 23 million ongoing and 43 million one time for enrollment work. So last year, and that was the part of that guarantee, right? We knew that we were going to have a lot of kids. By the way, I saw some statistics the other day. We have 8,000 new students that came into Utah this year. So you can take that 8,000 times about nearly $4,000 per student. That's what the WPU is. Multiply that out, and you'll see the millions that has to be in place in order to take care of enrollment work. And remember, I said that they already have those numbers and they put it in the base budget already for next year. There was 127 million ongoing for the stabilization account. Remember when I told you that was going to be over 100 million? It is. It's 127 million. So that's going to be great. And then last year, remember that these teachers made that pivot because of COVID. And oh my gosh, that was expensive and hard to do. And so we had that money that came into us. So we felt like we should give it back to our teachers. And so that was $121 million to give the teachers just a $1,500 stipend. It's expensive, isn't it? And then $1,000 to all those all the other people that provide critical service to our children. So anyway, that's kind of what went on. Now we've got to take these ideas and push them forward as we build a great education system for our kids and families in the future. Next slide, please. See what the time is here. All right, we got plenty of time. On December 7th, the Executive Appropriations Committee adopted the following increases. So I want you to know how great this is and how good you should feel about this as you look at programs around the state for family needs. And I know that's what this group is interested in. So in the base budget this year, there's 123 million ongoing, 1 million one time for inflation, and that's 2.6% WPU. And remember, you have to take that times about 35 million. That's 2.5% right there. And then, and also for the at-risk weighting. So we already told you we were going to do that because that's what we guaranteed in Amendment G. It's been done in the base budget. So pat everybody on the back about that. 19 million ongoing and 18 million one time for enrollment work. That's what that cost is. So we cannot allow, this is what that means to me. We cannot allow any local school district to have to get a whole bunch of increase of kids into their school district with no increase in money to pay for that. You're going to have to hire teachers. You might have to build buildings. You all understand that, right? So now we've got that built into the base budget, and it's expensive, but that's what we're doing in our state. We're growing, and we need to fund for that. And then, other items we'll bring up, and we will be getting them during this first 2 to 3 weeks of the session. This is what you all need to watch. In the general session, you're going to see State Board of Education requests millions and millions of dollars for different things to help our kids and our teachers and our families. And then also, as I said to you, there are recommendations that the governor wants. And so we pay attention to those, and we do try to build them into the budget. One of the things, Cheryl Lee, for you guys to watch is the upcoming governor's State of the State address. I think we start our legislative session next Tuesday on the 18th. And I believe the governor's State of the State address is at 6:30 p.m. on that Thursday night. I think it would be the 20th. You can check that out, but I think I'm accurate on that.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. And then the next slide. Yeah.
Can I just ask here also, I know that we have a lot of families or some of our families are homeschoolers. Where do they fit into this?
Yeah. You know what? When people fit into that's a great question. I think it's really important. You know, I spent my life in public and higher ed, and I also worked in charter schools, but I'm also an advocate of parent choice. People look at that and they go, well, yeah, but you were a public school administrator. How can you be for that? Well, I can be for that because everybody gets to choose what their life should be like, how they want to get educated, what they want for their child. So one of the things that the state does is that we fund the Utah online school, so that parents that choose to stay at home with their children, they can access an entire full curriculum and get their kid fully educated, and with a graduation certificate when they get it all done. So that's really important. And so that's a lot of money, but it's a great thing. I hope that helps you understand that, Shirley.
Yes, thank you.
Good. Yep. Here, I just want to say that the governor's recommendations, as I told you, they are recommendations. That's why it's really important for all of you to continue to do what your team here is suggesting, and that's to watch. The WPU increase would be about 186 million. Add-on for at-risk is 55 million. And then USB EFTs is about 1.6 million. That's new one-time money. One of the things that I've advocated for and worked on expanding is the Beverly Taylor Sorensen Arts Program. so that we're working to expand that and look at that 12.5 million to give kids access to the arts all across the state, in addition to, the mathematics and science and STEM and all of that. We're going to reduce curricular and co-curricular fees. This affects moms and dads, $55 million. So we will offset that with money we have. So mothers and fathers will have to pay less on the fees as they register their children for school. And then the market adjustments, that basically is like, it's cost of living sort of things that go on. So that's what that's about. Look at this one, full day kindergarten. We are really pushing for that, 2 million for that. That's always a problem though. You can't force full day upon a school district because maybe they can't afford it, or maybe they don't have space for it. But if they can and want to, they can access that through grant money. And then the special education shortage pilot, we're working on trying to find ways to incentivize people to go into that field. And then we also know that transportation is a huge issue with busing and getting people to school. We've got to fund that. We can't just leave that up to parents who are off to go to work and then finding ways for the kid to get to school. We've got to provide adequate transportation. So we'll be adding some money for that. So next slide, if you don't mind, just the thank you slide. You can see right there for me personally, you see that phone number on the left, 435-770-7051. Cheryl Lee knows this. I give my number to everybody, and everybody calls me from all over the state, all times of the day, on weekends. I don't care. That's what it's for. So my personal number, that's my House of Representative number. So I just give it to everybody, and I'm giving it to you. And I hope you all will put that in your contacts. So you can see my Facebook, Representative Dan Johnson. You can look that up. You can see my Twitter account. There's my email. It's DN. And I want to point that out on the address email. If you ever want to email me, don't forget the N in there because some people just put D Johnson, but then it doesn't get sent to me. So it's D as in dog and as in Nancy Johnson at le.utah.gov. Thanks for that part.
Thank you, Dan. And thank you so much for being here with us today and for these great resources. I just want to take a quick minute and then I'll turn it back over to Megan to finish up. But you guys, this is so important for us. What happens in this legislative session impacts every one of us. And it is really important for us to let our voices be heard. We need to, you will notice, just like today, we released the, let your voice be heard adventure, and there will be other adventures that we will release throughout the legislative session. Now, one thing to keep in mind, when we release these adventures, our goal is for you to, have these, think about these issues, what's taking place, have the discussions with your children as appropriate. You'll notice from this morning, we had the ideas, as we always do. There are ideas for, fitting this for the pre-K, ideas for the teams. They're very different. But the one thing that it is not, these adventures will not tell you what to think. Our goal is not to say, hey, here's what we think, and we want you to support this. That is not it at all. The purpose of these adventures is to encourage you to have these discussions with your children and reach out to your legislators and let them know how you think. We have almost 20 people in this room. We probably have 20 different views on some of the things that are going on out there. Again, it's not my goal to tell you what I think or encourage you to think like I think. It's my goal to encourage you to let Dan and the other legislators know, your legislators know what you think, because they can only represent you if you let them know where you stand on these issues. So please get involved. Know what the bills are. You know, pick out a few that maybe you're really passionate about and follow those. And again, Dan has provided the resources that you can be part of the whole process. You can watch that bill all the way through. You can be in committee meetings and watch the committee meetings regarding that. You can be a part of the public hearings and let your opinion be known, whether it's in person in the legislative session or whether it is, I'm sorry, probably that's committee meeting sessions or if it's via an email. A couple of things you guys are going to love. The tips section. As you know, each of our adventures includes a tips section teaching important parenting strategies. These are perhaps some of the most important tips that we have included in any of our adventures, because it's really about setting an example for your kids. Your kids will do what you do. If you are interested in the legislative session and they see that you are following it, they're going to understand that, hey, this is important and this impacts me. And they'll grow up with that understanding that what happens on Capitol Hill impacts them and they need to be involved. The other thing that's really important is that this gives you an opportunity to model for them how to disagree without being disagreeable. Okay, like I said, there are many, many different opinions on this. Model for your children how to have your opinion, think through your opinion, let your legislators know about your opinion, but also how to interact with others that think differently. And it's a great opportunity to help them learn these appropriate ways for interacting with other people who maybe have differing views. So anyway, I think you're really going to love that the adventure we released this morning is very, very important, very fun. We will have others. But again, keep in mind, our goal is for you to reach out to your legislator and let them know how you feel about this. You will never see in the adventure. The goal is that you won't even know what I think about it or whoever it is that writes that adventure. Hopefully you won't even know what our opinion is. That they're designed to help you and encourage you to have those conversations, with your spouse, with your children, and then ultimately, with your legislator. Let them know where you stand on that. So we're very, very excited with the legislative session coming up. There will be some key legislation that will be discussed, and it's important that you let your voice be heard. Again, Dan, thank you so much for coming and sharing this with us. And Megan, I'll go ahead and turn it back to you.
Okay, Dan, thanks again. Before I answer a couple questions in the chat, I was going to ask if anybody had any questions for Dan. We're running a little short on time. We could give about 4 more minutes. Does anybody want to raise their hand and ask Representative Johnson a question? Boy, Dan, you covered it. Nobody has any questions. Awesome. We've had request to get a copy of the slides and also the link to the legislative session, the live video. We are going to be releasing with the replay a link to a video that we've put together that has a lot of Dan's slides and information on how to get connected to the legislature. And with Dan's permission, I can also share his PowerPoint. Dan, do I have your permission to do that?
You do.
All right.
Please feel free to share everything I've given to you.
Perfect. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions today? Thank you again, Dan. That was very informational. Something that parents, we all need to be involved in. Let's see. One more message on the chat. Oh, it was a thank you. Another thank you. Oh, and I have to add, Shirley mentioned at the beginning of the chat that in addition to all the things that you listed on your resume, you were the principal at the middle school that her children and my children attended. So add that to your list of qualifications. Okay, we're going to go ahead and end, and everybody take note that next Monday is a holiday. We will not be hosting parent conversations, but we will join again on the 24th. And I think we're going to have Reagan from Mamavate. I think that's the day that she's coming. So We'll see you in 2 weeks. Enjoy your holiday with your kids. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.